from the BBC World Service in association with ABC and All India Radio. This is Stumped.
Hello and welcome to Stumped, your intercontinental hit of news, features and debate from the quirky world of cricket. I'm Alison Mitchell in the commentary box at Adelaide Oval. Australia and India have been playing each other at Test cricket since 1947, but never under lights with a pink ball. So it's a first we've been witnessing here. It's past the close of play. Floodlights are still beaming down on the lush green outfield. There are some players, both the Indian and Australia teams, making their way across the turf from the dressing rooms over on the other side. And as we look out across here, the heritage scoreboard with its yellow and white lettering and the fig trees beyond with the grassy hill, which isn't populated for this Test match because of COVID. But the commentary box is populated, and alongside me is
Jim Maxwell. Lovely to be sitting with you, Ali, and this extraordinary occasion and Test match. It's been so long since anyone in this country has seen a Test match. January in this year. So the expectation has been massive, and the fans, 35,000 of them over 2 days, haven't been disappointed by what they've seen with only 6 wickets on the first day, but 15 on the second day. And India with the upper hand, I think you'd have to say, after what we saw today.
It's been a fast-paced game so far. But let's not forget Bangalore. Come in, Bangalore.
Well, I must admit, I'm feeling a little left out. Gosh, there need to be an Adelaide. I have to use my imagination about all that lush green grass and everything else. Anyway, Test match action finally underway. And the one thing that's certain, guys, is that the pink ball, or should we say day-night Test matches, are tailor-made for yielding a result. Because for sure it's going to be a result this time, barring weather delays, of course. And it's all very deliciously poised. I must confess to being very pleasantly surprised at the way India has fought back in pure Aussie conditions. So a result for sure. Which way? Who knows? India, I think, maybe at least a nose ahead.
Charu, you're never forgotten. You know that. Charu Sharma for All India Radio, with us from afar. But we're recording this show at the end of the second day's play, and it has been a fast-moving game, which means there is already plenty to talk about.
Stark runs in again. Shaw is bowled. Bowled. Second ball.
Cummins over the wicket. Now bowled!
Kohli is pushing and gets a thickish inside edge. It'll be enough to bring up his half-century. Line to Rahane, and he's driving to mid-off. Set off for a run. He's got Kohli posted. He's out. Run out. Stark bowls. Struck on the pad. Rahane out. That looked plumb. India all out for 244.
Ashwin to close out the over. Bowling here to Smith, who's back edging and caught.
Bowls to Head. Flatter quicker delivery. Straight back to him. He's out.
Ashwin, flatter ball this time. Pulled away by Green and caught. Superb catch at mid-wicket. Virat Kohli. Shami continues in here to Tim Payne on 46, and he's cutting this time. Gets it wide of Gully. That's the ideal way to reach an 8th Test match half-century.
He bowls to him now, and he swings at this, and he gets it off the edge, and he's caught at slip. And the Indian bowlers have done a splendid job to lead by 53 runs on the first innings.
So there you go. After the second day, India already into their second innings. 1 for 9, a lead of 62, with Cummins having removed Prithvi Shaw. So a couple of low scores for the Indian opener. More on that in a moment. As Jim said, 15 wickets falling in the day, and India adding only 11 to their day one score. Those last 4 Indian wickets fell in just 4.1 overs, 4 wickets for Stark, 3 for Cummins, and their total of 244 looked better and better as Australian wickets then fell. And you have to say, Bumrah, Shami, Yadav and Ashwin were superb, although a number of catches did go down along the way. But Tim Payne came in with Australia 5 for 79 and rallied to make his 73 with some support from the tail. So India, as you heard at the end there, taking a first innings lead of 53. Some more of the detailed talking points in a moment. But Jim, to come to you first then. Yes, which side will be happiest going into day 3?
Oh, India, because Australia has to bat last. And the way they batted today suggests that if India have the discipline and skill that they showed today against the top order, they should win this game. There's always the X factor with someone like Smith playing a big innings, and we saw Labuschagne have a fair bit of luck in making his 47 today, and Tim Payne was outstanding to revive it all. But there's a bit of an even bounce, tennis bally bounce in this surface. That's why batting has been so difficult and at times very, very painstaking to watch. But the contest has been thrilling. And if India can lead by 200 plus, I think they're in excellent position to go one up in the series.
Do you feel the same, Charu?
Yes, I think the Indian batsmen are not likely to get too many runs even in the second innings because the ball's doing a lot. They're not used to this level of bounce. There's no fun losing Prithvi Shaw right at the top because he can push the score along pretty quickly. So I do suspect, I mean, Jim says 200. I think 250, 275 is possibly safer, not to get too greedy. But of course, the Indian bowlers are done very well. So they would know that they can protect something like a 270 rather than feel psychologically out of it, saying, oh, we only got 270. It's going to be a bowler's contest for sure. And once again, in this test match, if somebody like Kohli can produce the goods for India, one doesn't look too far, but too far ahead, that is. But maybe Rohit Sharma can replace him. But run making is going to be a premium, particularly in this pink ball test match. But we'll have to see what happens later. Adelaide's been pretty happy hunting grounds for India, hasn't it been, Alison, Jim, for the last few test matches?
This is one of their... Melbourne and Adelaide are their happy grounds in Australia. But the fact is, Australia's won all the pink ball games they've played, and certainly all four in Adelaide, whether they've been batting or bowling first, it hasn't mattered. But without Warner at the top of the innings, they're looking a bit vulnerable, as we saw today, when a very painstaking and tentative, nervous opening partnership between the throw-ins to the job, Burns and Wade, failed to launch Australia's innings, and so that's an issue that they're going to have to resolve. And if they don't do that in the second innings, no doubt we'll have some other openers in the next test match.
Well, it's an issue that faces both teams, doesn't it, around the openers? Because, yes, single-figure scores for Burns and Wade. They were both out for 8. Both of them out LBW to Bumrah. Both of them very tight LBWs as well, it has to be said. But, Charu, India have a similar problem because Prithvi Shaw has now been dismissed cheaply twice as well.
Well, I hope it's not a similar problem in that only one of the openers gets out cheap. I hope Mayank Agarwal does a lot better than his 17 the last time around. He's not, he's technically a lot better than Shaw, if we can say that. Shaw is very gifted, of course, but that high backlift of his is causing plenty of trouble. It's been dissected a lot, saying because of the pace and the fact that the Australians are a lot quicker generally, Stark particularly in Cummins too. Shaw is not getting enough time to bring his bat down the correct angle. But let's not get too technical. Yes, there's a problem both sides. And for sure, when play resumes on day 3, I don't think Bumrah is going to last too long. Unlike, say, a Dizzy many years ago when he got that double 100. So India are going to be 2 down pretty quickly, even just psychologically, though. And if they can somehow get past the 250 mark as a collective lead, that's what we're looking at. But I still expect Mayank Agarwal, who's beginning to leave the ball rather well on bounce. If he can carry on along with Pujara and Kohli, I think India would have weathered the storm. But yeah, you are right. In fact, we talked about this on Stump the last time around, whether India would have an advantage because Warner wasn't around. And I did say, yes, even though Smith and others are very good in the middle, but having any team, say 20, 30, 40 for 2 in a test match, suddenly, the back is up. You say, all right, good, great. We've got this side down. But that advantage is likely to continue, Jim.
Well, I think so. If India bowl as well as they did today, I mean, Australia are a bit exposed with their batting at the top of the order. Even if Warner was playing against this attack on this surface, I think they could be in some bother. But they couldn't get any momentum. And when Smith fails, it's hard work for Australia to muster a score. They're scrapping as they did today, and 7 for 111. They were going to be bowled out for 100, 150, so Payne did superbly to guide them through to some sort of respectability. But they're playing from behind, and Australia have got a lot to do to make sure they're not chasing a score that'll be impossible to get. But it's intriguing, there's no doubt about it. There's a lot left in this game, although it mightn't last more than another day.
Oh, you're only giving it one day, are you? Well, you just have to wonder, though, what size, Charu, India's first innings might have been had Kohli not been run out. because that looked to be such a big turning point in the match. I mean, an awful lot has happened since then, but he was on 74. He was batting beautifully with Rahane, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, just two things. One, of course, he showed a fair amount of composure, which is not normal for Kohli. He seemed to have walked off without, showing too much of a temper there, but one can imagine what must be going on in his mind, because he was very well set, going along very well. So was Rahane, by the way. And it was a big blow for India. He seems to have taken it well. And can you imagine what was going on in Rahane's mind, leave alone Kohli's mind, having got the skipper run out after having
I think he wanted to stay in the middle for as long as... I think Rahane would have wanted to stay in the middle for as long as possible after that, didn't he?
True,
but he couldn't, go back to the dressing room and face
sadly.
Kohli. No.
Yeah. Well, that was very unfortunate, yes, because in a test match, for sure, I mean, the last thing you want to do is get run out. I mean, there's no desperate pressure at all to take those runs, and that was a huge mistake.
I was just going to say, one area where India have got to sharpen themselves up is their fielding. They dropped quite a few catches today, and between the wicket keeper and the slip cordon, they need to be a bit sharper. I'm not sure about Saha as your number one keeper. He missed one early on from Labuschagne, and there are a couple of catches that between Shaw, Agarwal and even Bumrah, although he may have had some excuse because he was wondering where the rope was while he was trying to catch it, but still. They are not mistakes India want to make if it happens to be someone like Smith in their second innings who offers a chance. So they need to sharpen up in that area. And if they're taking their catches, well, Australia mightn't have got to 150, maybe Kohli was really threatening. So he'll be big news tomorrow. He might play the innings that wins the match for India on the third day.
Well, somebody who did profit from some drops today was Marnus Labuschagne. He offered a chance when he was on naught. That was a Saha dive. He went full stretch, but just seemed to dive over it. But then two catches which really should have been taken any day of the week. He was dropped at long leg by Bumrah, and then dropped on... he was on 12 at that point, and then dropped when he was on 21 as well by Prithvi Shaw. That was off Bumrah's bowling. But Labuschagne went on to make 47. Let's hear his thoughts on the state of the game.
Well, I think it was a nice opportunity to come out and bowl again, actually, today. I think we sort of, maybe a few more overs there would have been nice, 10 or 12 overs, potentially get yourself, 2 or 3 down and actually start getting into their batters would have been really nice. But I think, the way Tim and the lower order batted there towards the end was superb, scrapping our way, and I think that's how it's going to be. It's just going to be a scrap for the whole game, and hopefully we'll finish on top.
That's Marnus Labuschagne. Another point of interest in this match, Jim, has been the Test debut for Cameron Green at 21 years of age, and we haven't seen a lot of him yet because he only bowled 9 overs in the first innings and didn't last too long with the bat, making just 11. But your early impressions?
He seems to have the temperament for the big stage. I thought he bowled with some oomph, and clearly a player of that height and pace is going to be dangerous. They'll have to monitor, though, his bowling spells, because he's already had some back issues, as young players tend to do. So they'll have to be careful with him in that regard. He got out to a very good catch from Kohli at mid-wicket when he pulled a short ball. Here, Rick Finlay, the scorer, reminded me, said, Ian Chappell got 11 on debut, and he went on to be a pretty good player. So I don't know whether that means anything, but... what's his name? Cameron Green. The first Green to play Test match cricket, looks a player of the future, but whether he comes off substantially in the game remains to be seen. We'll be watching.
Well, behind the scenes all day today, there's been lots of people on their phones and listening to radio bulletins and social media and trying to keep up with what's been an unfolding COVID-19 situation in New South Wales, because the third Test match of this series is due to take place there, starting on the 7th of January. But of course, there's lots of people at this game, working on this match, involved in the series, who live in Sydney and were hoping to go back to Sydney before then coming to Melbourne for the Boxing Day test, and border closures already starting to happen, or at least restrictions starting to come in. But it's a complicated situation. Jim, all we know at the moment really is that case numbers seem to be growing. It's the Northern Beaches area which is mainly affected, but also a little bit into Bondi Junction. A number of people from the media centre even have already flown home as a precaution who come from those areas of Sydney. So it's an example really of how things can change very, very quickly when it comes to this pandemic.
Well, the good part of it is the authorities in various states are quick to act on these things. So hopefully they can fence in this outbreak and make sure it doesn't expand to the extent where we're going to have more massive border closures and quarantine. But as we speak, we know the situation's a little precarious. We'll know more in the next 24 hours.
Charu, I just wonder, in India, is news about this COVID outbreak in Sydney reaching India, and do people share these concerns about the Sydney test, or do you feel a bit removed from it?
Well, I certainly feel a little removed, but I can understand the problem that it may lead to. I hope there's no scheduling situation here as well. And of course, I wonder how the players are taking it all. But I'm just glad that there's some cricket action going on for the moment. In India, there are plenty of other problems going on at this point of time. So yes, cricket is being rejoiced with the fact that there's a test match against Australia, but there's all sorts of talk about the second waves and third waves, and I read in the papers today that maybe we won't go through a second wave. So, who alone knows? I mean, that's all very confused. But generally speaking, there's I think, focus on the fact that maybe 4 or 5 vaccine options are on now. So maybe we are seeing the beginning of the end. That sounds very positive, doesn't it? Positive is bad, but that sounds very encouraging. The beginning of the end of this pandemic.
Well, that's it for this week's Stumped on All India Radio. Thanks to my co-hosts, Charu Sharma and Jim Maxwell, and to you for listening. Make sure you join us next week for a special review of the best of Stumped in 2020. And then join us in the new year for reaction to the Boxing Day test in Melbourne. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.
Stumped is a BBC sport production for the BBC World Service in association with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation and All India Radio.